America is on edge tonight. President Trump says Chicago could be the next city to see troops on its streets. Will the National Guard restore peace, or is this the beginning of militarized America? Tonight, we break it all down. The nation is divided, tensions are high, and once again, Washington is at the center of the storm. The question tonight: should the federal government, led by President Donald Trump, deploy the National Guard into major American cities to curb rising violence? Or is this a dangerous step toward militarizing American streets? From the nation's capital to Chicago, from Sacramento to communities across the country, the debate is heating up. President Trump, fresh from what the White House calls a successful crackdown in Washington, is signaling that other cities could be next. And for Chicago in particular, the warnings are urgent. Local leaders say they've received credible reports that federal troops could soon be deployed, with only days, not weeks, to prepare. The mayor of Chicago has even instructed police officers not to cooperate if the federal government sends in the Guard, setting the stage for a dramatic showdown. The president's critics call this heavy-handed and dangerous. But his supporters argue it's simple: you either side with law and order, or you side with chaos and violence. The White House points to Washington, D.C. as proof that the president's approach works. After deploying more than 2,000 National Guard troops and federal agents onto the Capitol's streets, violent crime dropped by 30%, according to officials. They cite more than 1,300 arrests, 140 illegal guns seized, and a dramatic decline in carjackings. Still, the controversy is far from settled. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says he welcomes more FBI agents and federal investigators, but not troops. You call up the National Guard when you have an emergency, he insists. There is no emergency here. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom is deploying crime suppression teams from the Highway Patrol, but he draws the line at militarizing neighborhoods, saying, quote, "We are not talking about the nationalization of American cities." Yet the numbers tell their own story. Washington's mayor, Muriel Bowser, who once scoffed at the idea of federal intervention, later admitted the results were undeniable. In her own words, there was an 87% reduction in carjackings after the surge of officers. She now says her city greatly appreciates the reinforcements. But critics say the presence of troops on American streets is simply too much. The Washington Post has reported that judges and jurors in D.C. have pushed back on prosecutions tied to Trump's surge. Some grand juries refuse to indict in high-profile cases, frustrating federal prosecutors. For Jeanine Pirro, the newly appointed U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, this only highlights the depth of the problem. She argues that the justice system has become numb to crime, with clearance rates so low that 70% of the murderers of black teenagers remain free on the streets. For her, this isn't about politics, it's about life and death. And that's not just rhetoric. In the past year and 8 months alone, 45 minority teenagers were shot and killed in the Capitol. Many of their cases remain unsolved. To Pirro and her team, every gun taken off the street, every arrest made, is a step toward restoring safety in a city that has ranked among the most violent in the world. She calls out what she describes as loopholes in local laws: juveniles accused of carjacking sent to family court instead of facing serious charges, and judges handing out probation for illegal gun crimes. In her words, this is lunacy that must be changed. And yet, opposition is strong. Former President Barack Obama weighed in, warning that expanding the use of the military on U.S. soil puts the liberties of all Americans at risk. He says both Democrats and Republicans should be concerned. California's Newsom echoed that message, saying Trump is doing things to people, not with people. But President Trump and his allies reject that outright. They argue he is not acting against the American people, he is protecting them. To the families of murder victims, to communities ravaged by shootings, they say politics won't bring back their loved ones, but decisive action might save others. And the president believes his federal surge is exactly that, decisive action. So tonight, America is at a crossroads. Do we accept the normalization of violent crime in our cities, or do we embrace an aggressive federal response that brings in the military? Supporters point to Washington's sharp decline in violence as proof. Critics warn that once the line of militarization is crossed, the consequences for civil liberties could last for generations. This is not just a debate about crime statistics, it is about the very character of our democracy, and the balance between freedom and security. Chicago may be the next testing ground, and the eyes of the nation will be watching closely. And now, we want to hear from you. Do you think President Trump is right to consider sending the National Guard into American cities, or do you believe this goes too far? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, if you value in-depth reporting and analysis, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Global Insight News, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.